Good morning, time travelers. Hope you're doing well today. I am the only one up right now in my house. I get up early and even on the weekends, busy doing all sorts of stuff, including gardening and doing my workout this morning. Today, we are going to check out a vintage clothing warehouse. Yes, I said it right, a vintage clothing warehouse. My son is looking for some athletic wear that's vintage and also a jacket. Who knows what we'll all find. So today, in honor of that, I am wearing a Def Leppard t-shirt, which it's not vintage. It's retro though. And so here you can see the clock, it's still early. I've got to tend to that little meowing guy because he ended up in the mudroom and I didn't realize it. So that's why he's calling for me. Ready to step back in time with us? All right, come on, time travelers, let's go. This is the entrance to the Udelco Vintage Warehouse, about an hour from where I live. It's not really marked outside of the signs on the front door. When you walk inside though, it's very unexpected what you're going to find and really cool, including a Mac machine because it's all cash only. So if you're going, make sure to bring cash or use the Mac machine. Shopping here is a bit of a treasure hunt. As you'd seen in the previous frame, there are some things that are hanging up on racks, but for the most part they are not. And you have to look in individual boxes that are marked as to how they are categorized. So for example, ladies' sweatshirts from the 1980s. And by the way, clothes are from the time frame of the 1960s to the Y2K era or so. There are some things that I spotted that appeared newer, but for the most part, they were vintage. Like these were limited, if you remember the limited, not sure, but I used to work there in the very early 90s, 1990. So I remember it pretty well. One thing I wished from my visit was that I actually had more time because there was so much to look at and I was only there for about an hour and a half. But this interested me, this Catalina sweatshirt. And Catalina, if you didn't know, is a well-known brand that sells swimsuits, but evidently they also had some sweatshirts. And this one I really liked. I liked the style and I liked the colors. And so this came out of the box with me and I kept on hunting. So don't know what you're going to encounter as you're searching through the boxes and hoping that you'll find something really cool. It's really a fun event and I think it's kind of a neat way to bond and go shopping. My daughter was with me. My father and my son were walking around. You've seen them actually in the first frame and walking around together. That was in the very first box where I found the Catalina sweatshirt, and then we passed the Mac machine onto the other boxes. You can see there were different things that we were looking at, and it was just an experience. So my daughter and I stopped to the ladies' chino shorts, which I thought maybe I could find something cool, and I did start to see brands, and I will be sharing some of our dialogue with you, a little bit of it, but they had a lot of music. Sweetbriar, I guess that was a brand I wasn't familiar with, but this one was Palmetto, which I have a Palmetto jacket that I had recently gotten at bag sale and I was so thrilled to get. Oh, these Minnie Mouse shorts I did take with me because even though they are not my size, they're brand new with tag. And I still have to date them, but those were made in the USA shorts, so I took those with me. You're mainly not going to hear our dialogue, however, because they were playing music in the background, and it was wonderful music. I wish I could share it with you. This had Aha, Take On Me, which I love. So unfortunately, though, it could be a copyright strike. And we were looking at these shorts, which I didn't take because I thought they would be too small. They were size 36 European shorts, and my daughter commented about the magenta color, like who would wear those, but I reminded her that was the 1980s for ya. Speaking of 80s music, they were playing some really great music. After AHA, they had Cyndi Lauper's Girls Just Want to Have Fun, which I like to think we were having fun. I think my daughter was having a good time. She did get overheated in there because it was very warm, because the temperatures were warm outside. We've had an exceptionally warm summer, and so at some point later on in the visit, she ended up in the car and wanted to sit out there in the AC. We kept digging though in hopes of finding something for one or both of us, and I'd gotten lucky so far. I found these Talbot's pants, but I did not take those. But that's among the brands. I mean, the really lots of brand names that we're all familiar with were in there, and some really cool stuff. But again, I didn't know what the price was. I didn't know how much cash I would need, and I did end up having to go to the Mac machine because these are not bargain basement prices that you're going to get here, but you're getting good quality stuff, including this sweater. And this was something that she and I both liked. She loves cardigans, and so do I. And so we were looking at that, and even the original button was still attached to this cardigan. And this was another European one. This was a size 36 as well. And I asked her if she liked it. She thought it might be fun that we could even share this sweater. But it's a really beautiful green color with some Angora. And I talk about this a little bit later when I go over our haul. We just kept digging and digging and looking for stuff, and the boys disappeared into another larger room that we'll be showing you in just a little bit, looking at more cardigans. I was trying to see if there was something here that my daughter might like, but she was just getting, I think, a little bit agitated with the heat at that point. She just doesn't always fare well in places that are warm, and she was just getting uncomfortable there. So we just kept looking and looking at different stuff. But it was still really cool to check things out. And I definitely would love to come back here and go shopping when I have more time. Our next stop was right next to the clothing. They had a shelf unit with Vans over there, and she loves her Vans. And you may have seen already that she was wearing them. We were checking to see if there might be some cool Vans that she might like to get. You can see, yep, they match, but there was nothing here that interested her. But it was still cool to check them out nonetheless. I did find something cool as I rounded the corner, and I'll share my reaction briefly with you. Let's see, they got some, ooh. Oops, this is like, this is very like 80s looking. Would that fit me? What's that? This. What'd you smell it? I don't know, I smelled something. Wait, here, can you like help me to put that back on? Let me just, if you don't, I think I might like it. I don't know. Do you think that would be something I would? Yeah, it's like 80s vintage. Here, I think I think that would fit me. And it would match. We also noticed some jeans, and I'll show you my reaction to some of those later and some of my commentary about the jeans. Let's see. Well, because I'm looking to see if they have like any, you know what, I used to love the jeans back. What brand is that? Wrangler.
Can't read cursive.
Yeah, it would be fun to find old like Jordache jeans. My daughter and I, as you can tell, we were having a good time. And guys, for you younger guys like her, you should learn to read cursive if you heard her comments. This is the mom and me coming out. It is important to learn cursive so you know what you're reading. What about these guys? These green pants were like an oasis in the middle of all of these jeans, and I thought that these were really cool. I can't see the tags. I knew they were vintage, and it was my daughter that realized that these were likely handmade.
I don't know if there is tags. This could be hand sewn. Because there's no strings on the inside. It's a very baggy pant too.
Is that too long for me?
No, it's like baggy in the crotch area. Look at that.
I don't know what the size is.
These must be high-waisted. Well, there's no tag.
I know, and I don't know what the prices are on the things.
Oh, check it out. They have records for $5.
With green, one of my favorite colors, I was really drawn to these pants, so I decided to take them with me, and I'd ask about the pricing later. Decided to follow my daughter over to the record section, and I love that poster of Bob Marley. They had $5 records, which is a really good price for vintage records. So I wanted to see what I could find, and she thought she might like to look too. The first one that jumped out at me was this Culture Club one, and I was a big fan of Culture Club, and I still love Boy George. I actually had gone to see them in concert, like I think it was 1984 that I'd gone, when the Brendan Byrne Arena was still around in New Jersey, and that was really an amazing thing to see. I even took pictures, though I was way in the nosebleeds. This was not a record I had, and there was damage to the record jacket, but I thought it was really cool, and I didn't want to leave it behind. She did ask me if there were particular records I'd like to find, and I told her Duran Duran. I've been a fan of Duran Duran's probably since 1984 as well, and I had the opportunity to see them perform at the Wellmont Theater in 2009 and take pictures. I have some great shots of them. I was right next to the stage, close enough that I could look into Simon Le Bon's eyes and see how blue they were. That's how close I was. It was just totally amazing. I still am crushing on John Taylor. This is like what jeans looked like when I was young. Oh, sorry. Yeah, these would be too small for me though. they just, ooh, check those out. Those are fun. Monique jeans. I've never heard of that brand. That's really cool. The one jacket that I got that's an 80s jacket has that kind of thing on it. I laugh the most when I replay this section, especially my daughter's reaction to my reaction to a pair of jeans here. Yeah, I was looking, ooh. Come to Mama, Jordache. Holy cow, what size is this? Let's see. Size 12, okay. Size 14. Shoot, did I have something? I did find the elusive Jordache with the horse on it. Tried to get the Jordache look, but I couldn't because they were not my size. LA Blues, these would probably, oh, check those out. Those are very 80s with like the lace. Although
Oh,
I
check
couldn't
this
get those very cool and very vintage Jordache, I was able to get these jeans, which are very cool and acid washed and super 80s.
What is this? What is the size of this?
That's Jordache! Oh my god!
How do you make that sound?
Those are... Jordache is cool. Can I see the back?
I kind of want to get this. I like baggy jeans.
Oh, those are really cute. What do you want me to show you? The jeans? Alright, so I would love to find Jordache, but in my size that is like universal thread. We have some vintage dresses. Yeah, I would love to find the Jordache, but in my size, because I think those are like, because these would fit me, I think.
Oh my god, Mom, you're carrying a lot.
Yeah, because this is a
Those are
size
really
8.
acid washed. Holy.
That is acid washed, yeah.
Those acid washed to high heavens. Look at that.
Okay.
Do you want me to carry stuff?
Yeah, you got it. I wanted to see these too. Like, are these this wear? Can I just check? I'm sure. I want to see. Wait, where you're going? I'm sure that those are. I just want to see the tag on this one.
The first one?
The acid washes. Yeah.
The daisy? You just want acid wash pants?
No, I kind of like that because it's.
Was it your size?
They're a size 8. Yeah. Unfortunately, the Jordache I think would be like. That. I mean, Jordache was
this is a size.
What's this?
16, but I'm just gonna fucking put a belt on it there.
Yeah, these are too big. Would be too big for me. Okay, let's. We're going to speed through this section because we didn't take anything off of any of these racks here. These last couple of racks within that first room, but there were some very cool things from all different decades through the end of the 20th century that we noticed here. There was a box of Harley Davidson ladies t-shirts in the first room that my daughter looked at because she was interested in possibly getting one for herself. And I also like the Harley Davidson brand, but there was nothing there that really suited us, and so we decided to pass. But that's very cool that they have this brand. Here we are looking through the last couple of racks and also belts, but we didn't take anything. I've been on the hunt for a black patent leather belt. I had gotten a dress at Goodwill that's a retro 30s style black dress, and I had gotten a patent leather belt, but it turned out to be a size that's small. I think it was actually a child's belt, and it didn't fit me, but it fits my daughter. I wasn't able to find that style belt here, but I did give it a look. There were some 80s dresses that I did consider. That blue one specifically I was interested in. However, I had bought a bunch of dresses recently at the Salvation Army store in Hackettstown, and so I really wasn't in need for anything, and I just left them behind. Additionally, because I still wasn't sure what I would be paying for what I'd gotten so far. Realizing there was another room and we are about to enter that room, I really wanted to pace myself. Here we are entering the other room. You can see we were greeted with all sorts of vintage stickers, and it's overwhelming if you look at all of the boxes just lining up everywhere in all sorts of categories. And there were boxes all on the other side too that I haven't even gotten to show you yet. But we were greeted with all sorts of stuff, and it was just overwhelming to look through. We're going to probably speed through some of this too for some of you as well, and we'll stop at a couple of boxes and we'll give you a glimpse. But there was just so much stuff. You can see you could really spend a whole afternoon here, but it was, again, warm, and even it was warm for me, and I was concerned about my father. He was fine back here, and he's pretty hardy and does pretty well, and he's very enthusiastic about stuff. And my son was on the other side. I mean, he's a National Guardsman, so I think he could put up with all sorts of stuff. And again, with him, as I mentioned towards the end of the video, he probably would have stayed here longer if he could have. Though I've given proper attribution on this video already to the artist, I'm going to give a shout out to Cold Funk, Funkorama, Kevin MacLeod for this background music, which normally I wouldn't be playing it for the extent, but I think it sounds better on the video. And additionally, there was a ton of music. I would have loved to have given you more audio here, but it was just again, potential of copyright strike, though there was a ton of great 80s music that they were playing. That as well was worth the trip. They really set the atmosphere with the vintage music in here. We're going to race through this again, and my father came by at this point after spending some time with my son, and he was telling us how amazed he was at the quality and was showing us some of the fashions here and was looking at it, and I think was amazed again about, because of course he knows from his age, being a vintage guy himself, about how things were manufactured, and he did work in the fashion industry as a photographer. So I think it was kind of a neat experience for him to check things out, and he was checking out this sweater and having a laugh about the print on it, and was making some animal noises and just was having fun himself. There's so many different categories of clothes there. You could see there were 80s windbreakers, there were all sorts of sweaters, so much stuff. I think you have to really go in there with a list in mind of what you might be looking for. And now that I've been here, I know for the next time that I go back, I will have an idea of the categories that there are, because it's just so immense, all of the things. And my son was on the other side of the warehouse. This seemed to just be ladies' stuff over on this side, and he was over on the opposite side of the warehouse. In case you're wondering how I discovered this place, this is, again, about an hour from where I am. In fact, driving here, we were able to see the New York City skyline, so it's in the very northern part of New Jersey. But I was inspired to look for a vintage clothing warehouse after watching a vintage channel that I like to watch with Love Kristina. And she had gone to a vintage warehouse out in the western part of the United States where she lives. And so I asked myself, and I wondered if they had such a thing here, because there's a lot of vintage clothing stores here. I used to go when I was a teenager and in my early 20s to Greenwich Village in New York to the Antique Boutique. And so I know that it's a big thing out here too. And I looked and I discovered Udelco online. I'll have a link to Udelco's website on my video, but just a little background. They've been in business since 1971, so like me, they're also vintage. And they opened their first location in Orangeburg, New York, and they've been in Hawthorne, New Jersey since January 2000. Now, they cater to stores mainly. They are a wholesaler, meaning that somebody who owns a retail business can go and shop wholesale there, but they are open to the public and to shoppers like you and me who want to just buy some vintage clothes, but you will be paying retail prices and will need to go up and show them your items and they'll price them for you. But I feel that you'll have a great time like I did. You've just got to be ready to roll up your sleeves and realize you're going on a treasure hunt. But like us, I'm sure that you're going to find some very, very cool things. Briefly checked out the Hawaiian print shirts because my daughter's friend and her sister really love Hawaiian print. We decided to look at this box, and I was really intrigued with this dress because it had a knit to it that was similar to a bathing suit that my mother had in the 1970s. Her friend was a bathing suit designer at that time for Catalina, which is how I knew that brand. And she had a flowery bathing suit, but my daughter thought that this particular dress was probably like Y2K. It was a Talbot's brand. I was intrigued though with this Forenza dress because Forenza is a brand from the 80s, and though I prefer fashions from like the 40s, 50s, early 60s, mainly my favorite 20th century fashions, I, of course, am partial to the 80s because that's when I was growing up, and as a teenager when fashions were really huge to me, those were the things that I wore, of course, were 80s fashions blended with the fashions from those earlier decades. I ended up passing on it though, and I'm glad I did because I decided to do just a little more digging because I wasn't 100% about this dress, and instead I found this beauty. It is a dress from Guess, and I would say that it is from the 80s because Guess was from 1981 or around there to the very early 90s, and I absolutely loved it and ended up taking it home. We're going to give you the racing version of some of this again so you can see how many things we saw and looked through. There was just so much to take in there. It was just unreal, and I think it, again, being geared towards wholesale purchases, I think that for somebody who is an average person, it can be a lot. So you really, really, again, I reiterate, take a list with you and know what you want to get. Looking at the website, again, just to note that they say they have everything vintage 60s, 70s, and 80s clothing. Again, I saw things that were later than that too. And that was clear as we walked through that, seeing things for Y2K. But it looks like they have everything here from t-shirts to disco shirts to purses to pants, sweaters, coats, shoes, cowboy boots, military clothing. So there's an array. It looks like you could see even we picked through some pajamas while we were there. And they had neon clothes. I just wasn't prepared for all of this. I know I will be though for the next time. I happened to go over to this one corner, and at this point, this is when my daughter was really getting very agitated about the heat, but I had seen a box with aprons in it, and there was another girl that was here, and I was trying to be as polite as I possibly could and give her personal space, but we both wanted to look at the aprons, and I really am looking just for a plain apron. If possible, I still am on the hunt for that. They had a ton of aprons that were printed. I did find one though that was calling out to me that you'll see in just a second. and it was something I also had a hard time seeing into this box because of my height, and this box was up a little bit higher, but the girl was able to peek in there herself, and somehow I was able to fish out the apron that I had seen, and there it is, and to get it out, and I just thought that it was the cutest looking apron. I do tend to think that it probably is potentially older than the 60s or the 70s, since that's a time frame, but I thought it was really adorable, and I ended up taking this home with me. I wasn't expecting to find aprons. I thought it was really cool that they had a box of those there. We ended up, after this, going to see a couple of racks, and they did have some boxes with some belts, and I looked at that, but you can see my daughter starting to melt in the corner, and so she was getting agitated with me in the next frame when I was looking at an 80s shirt, and I ended up giving her the keys, and she went out and grabbed some AC. This is very 80s. That would actually... It reminds me of a blouse I had years ago, actually. Alright, hold on. They had some vintage posters here, music related ones, as you can see, the Beatles, Pink Floyd. They had some purses. This was close to where you would pay, and all of these stickers and patches and other stuff. And my son came over at this point and we reconvened. He was still looking for t-shirts, and so we asked for him where particular t-shirts were, and he was directed where to go, and so he headed back over to that spot. But you can see this men's section was super busy, and they had a ton of stickers and cool stuff. My daughter was still here at this point. You can see the pants and her pants, but she was getting fed up, and it wasn't much longer, but I had to kind of move my son along because he was really enjoying that, looking in that corner, and was continuing to look for stuff. And there I went through this box looking for patent leather black belt, but I wasn't able to find one, but I spotted some really cool vintage belts of all styles. Being a retired photographer and photography professor, my father was very intrigued with this picture of Jimi Hendrix that had a holographic style, and he brought that over to me to show me, and he definitely said he wanted to come back and check this out on his own because he thought it was neat. Oh, there was a blue patent leather belt, but I ended up not taking that, but I thought maybe there would be hope that I would find a black patent leather since I'd found that one. After we left here, we had about a 40-minute drive or so back to my father's town, but we all went out and grabbed something to eat before that and before dropping him back home. But it was a good afternoon, I think, and it was a good way for everybody to get out and to just check out this cool place. You can see by looking at some of these belts, there was one that I pulled out, you could see the old style lettering on the belts. You could tell everything is old and very vintage, and if you like that, it's well worth it to check it out. And this handsome kid on the left, that blonde-haired kid, is my son, who's trying on that jacket, and he ended up taking that home. And while he was doing that, I started looking through some t-shirts, Hard Rock Cafe t-shirts, because that is something I liked, and I hoped I would find something that maybe was vintage. I started going to the Hard Rock Cafe in the 80s, and I've been to a few of them. I've been to New York, of course, also to Honolulu and to San Diego, which was probably my favorite of all of them. I ended up by my son for a little bit as he was looking through Star Wars t-shirts. I was looking at surfer shirts because I was hoping to find some Ocean Pacific, though I didn't find any. That was a brand that I wore back in the 80s, and I was looking for an Ocean Pacific t-shirt of some kind. To me, they can be hard to find at times, but you can see some popular brands that were probably like 90s and 2000s there, but I did not find any OP, at least not this time. Maybe I'll find it in the future, who knows. I captured a little bit of this last corner for you just so you can see how immense this place is. It's just unreal how much stuff there was. I was just amazed. And this was a men's section, and there were blankets and denim and more shirts. There was just so much stuff. I don't know how long it would take to go through there, but you definitely need more time if you want to come here and really browse. So we paid up, and this is us heading on back out. It was really a great thing, and I look forward to coming back. Here's a preview of all of our stuff, and we have a bag ban in New Jersey, so we carried everything out without bags. And I had done a little bit of thrifting just before that at a store up by us, so I had a couple of things that were already in the car. But you could hear my son saying he didn't get to try on his denim jacket, so he was using the car's reflection to look at it. And I ended up taking my album out of the trunk and bringing it up with us, but the rest of this stuff ended up in the trunk. Hey time travelers, I am back, and you can see it's 7:45, and you can also see I'm wearing something different because we are going to do the haul now. I have tried things on and they are fitting me, and I'm going to give you a look at what everything looks like. I didn't realize until we were getting ready to leave there was a fitting room there, but it was too much. The heat was a bit too much for my daughter in there, and I also had my father with me who is well over 80 years old, and I didn't know if it would be too warm for him, but he actually wants to go back on his own and check this out. And I thought it might be like kind of a fun thing for him to get to go and check it out, and he kind of browsed around himself. I think the one who probably made out the most well was probably my son. He got a leather jacket there that's a vintage leather jacket. There's some really good, cool quality stuff that you'll be seeing. So we'll show you. This here is a Catalina shirt and made in the USA. Sorry about the hand. You can see that. I'll let everybody take a look up close. And then I've got these cool vintage jeans. Check them out. This is LA Blues, these jeans. So we'll let you take a look at them up close. I've got the same jeans on, but then this is the shirt that I got, one of the shirts. You can see it's got a cruise style ship. This is very 80s with its patterns, you can see. It reminds me of a shirt that I used to have in the 80s, which had this type of beading on it, and it had a lady on it and some beading around her. She was a vintage looking lady, not vintage 80s, but like kind of more vintage 40s in the 80s. And there were orange crates and other things there. So it was kind of a cool thing. So we will get a look at this closer too. All right, so I am back, and this time I'm in green, and I am wearing a cardigan that is actually from Europe, and it's a brand that's a vintage brand called Yarrell, spelled Y-A-R-E-L-L, and I looked it up, and it's actually a brand from Germany. Sorry about the shadow in my face. And so you're gonna see this brand here. It's made with Angora, and it's got a really cool little design on the pocket. We'll take a look at this closer. But I decided, since it is green, to pair it with something else that's green, and that's this skirt. And again, I wished I had gotten to try this on and look at it, but I didn't have a chance to, but it fit me just fine. I mean, I checked the sizes. I kind of know by looking at a lot of stuff if it's gonna fit me or not, and I had a good feeling about both of these. It's kind of long. It's a size 36, which is a European size. And so it's just a little big, but I think in terms of, it fits my arms, you can see, but in terms of the size, the length, but they were wearing cardigans a little bit longer back in the 80s. So I could get away with it. So I will let you look at this closer too, but we are on to the next outfit. I'm back. I'm just wearing this sweater, but I'm gonna show you the pants and we'll get a look up close at them. But you can see the print here, and these also, they fit pretty well. I think that these were made by somebody. These are not mass-produced pants. I think these might be one-of-a-kind made pants from the 70s based on the texture. They're polyester type of fabric. They fit me very comfortably. The first time I tried them on at home here, I actually had them so that they were zippered in the back. Right now they're zippered in the front, which is, I think, what they're supposed to be zippered as. It's hard because there's no tag on it, but either way, they fit me comfortably. So I think, anyway, it goes. And, you know, in the vintage styles, people have worn them both ways. You know, in the 60s, I have pants that are Emilio Pucci 60s pants that zip in the back too. So it's possible. Hey guys, I'm back, and I am showing you the last thing I have. And the cat is meowing again, but it's this time because he wants his wet food, even though he's had dry food. I have very spoiled cats here. And then we'll show this to you up close. This is the last outfit I'm gonna try on, and then I'll just show you some other stuff from the haul. Is a dress by Guess, and this I would say is 80s, or possibly like very early 90s, but it's got beautiful buttons on it, you can see here. And then it's a very long dress. It goes basically all the way down. Very pleased. I mean, this was very reasonable, and it's all made in the USA, which the vintage clothes were. I mean, that's one thing when you have seen things that I've recorded already, you will see, and I didn't see them on all of these because I think some of the transition was happening in the 80s, but didn't have the union tag on them, a lot of them. But they were made mainly in the USA, but then they would be made in other countries like Taiwan and whatnot at that time. And eventually, you know, now, I mean, things that we get in the USA are made in different countries, typically in Asia. We will go over to the table and I will show you everything. All right, so we're gonna take a look at everything here. This is the one shirt that you saw me wearing, which has an appearance of a cruise ship on it. And this is a Milano, it's A' Milano, medium, made in Pakistan. This is from the 80s. This is one of the 80s brands, which is very cool. I mentioned to you, you can see up close, it's got that little style with kind of the really funky patterns all together, and that was common in the 80s. And then this is the adorable blouse from Catalina, and I did feed my cat. He's got his wet food, but he's still meowing because he's just expressive. Made in the USA. Catalina, as you know, is, you may know, you may not, is the well-known swimsuit brand. But this is really adorable. I love the sleeves on this, and it looks just great. I thought it did. It's got like a very sort of like nautical sort of vibe to it. So, and then these are the jeans, and I absolutely love these. I really wanted a pair of Jordache. You saw me looking through the racks at Jordache, and my daughter did get a pair of Jordache, but I wanted like the early 80s, mid 80s style, and I did not. Those would have been way too big on me. But this is LA Blues. I love the button on this with the rhinestone. It's fun and blingy. You can see the acid wash. And then I love this. If only I could find this shirt that I had, that Madonna style shirt that I used to wear and love, that was white. There is something similar to it. Obviously I can't find that very one, but that is the first bit here. Now I'll show you my daughter's. This is a pair of Jordache jeans that she got. All right, you can see. She said it's not wear a size 14 typically, but she's like, Mom, I'm gonna be belting these, because she just loved this with the little flame on the side. This was very cool. It's not the typical Jordache that they, oh wait, there is Jordache, but it's not like the one that from the early 80s with the horse on it. And then, now these guys I will not be wearing because they are not my size. But I thought that they were super cool. These are made in the USA, and they are Mickey and Company. And so if there was anything for resale, I thought I would take a chance on this one. I still haven't looked it up yet, but I know it's Disney, and Disney does well. I'm just, you know, as I mentioned in my other video, was thinking about delving back into doing some slight reselling. I did it before in the past. I want to, you know, do that because right now we're in kind of a weird economy, and I've got a lot of stuff to sell anyway for my stuff, and so I thought I would throw some other stuff in there. But this adorable apron, I think that this is probably earlier than the 70s. It could be from the 60s or even earlier, but I just thought this was really adorable. I love this with the rickrack, and it's definitely needs an iron to it, but I thought that was really sweet with the little chicken. Yes, I hear you, Ben. But all right, we'll put this here until we get over to here so you don't have to look at my boring table. But this is Guess Jeans USA. This is that beautiful dress. I mean, the denim is so beautiful and soft. I mean, Guess was always good quality. And then you can see the quality on the buttons here. And this is what the buttons look like as well. So, and this is the Yarrow sweater. You can see here. I'll show you the pocket. It's not this one, it's the other one. You can see with the really cool design. I love that. And then these are 70s pants. I believe 70s or 60s even. I think these were made by somebody. These were homemade. Nice zipper, and nice like kind of pleats in here, and on the back you can see those are unmarked and no tags there. So I tend to think, I mean, I'm not an expert on clothes, but I tend to think that these were made, and they're in wonderful shape. They are super comfortable. I can't wait to wear them in somewhere, videos or in real life. And then this is, I don't see the brand on this skirt, but this was definitely, because I had some things like this myself in the 80s, made in the USA. I love the cabbage rose patterns here. Beautiful mini skirt. That's very 80s, if you can say 80s. So these are the cool things that my son got, and he was really, I think he would have still been there until 5 o'clock if he was able to. We were there for well over an hour, probably like an hour and a half, and he was like, what? When we had to leave, he felt like it wasn't that long. But he got himself this Star Wars sweatshirt, and this is really nice. He loves Star Wars, like a lot of people do in his generation and mine. And then he picked himself up this Coca-Cola shirt, which is also very cool. And I actually had a Coca-Cola like polo type of pullover shirt in the 80s that I feel sad because I don't have it anymore, but I've got a picture of myself wearing it. I think he had another t-shirt here. Am I losing my mind? Yes. Okay, I am losing my mind. Here's another Star Wars t-shirt that he got himself. Very nice. And he paid $60 for all of this. And you'll see, especially when we get to the last one, that I think it paid for himself, this order. His whole order. But then he got these lifeguard sweatpants that are by Lee, which Lee Sport was a brand, that was popular still in the 80s, 90s. These were made in Israel. They're nice quality. And he got himself a denim jacket that he liked. And this is like a nice denim jacket. And he got, I'm not really familiar with this brand, Comfort Denim, but he liked it. But I looked up this jacket, and I think I'd gotten a little footage of him that you'd probably seen trying this on. And what's amazing is I looked this up, and this one, I think he paid maybe between 15 and 34, and this is from the 1970s. I kind of knew from the tag that this was older, but I didn't realize how old this was. So it's about, depending on when it was made, like I would say 50 years old. It's a beautiful jacket. He put it back at first because of the expense, but I said, you know what, get it. Because it's one of those things, if you don't get it now, you may never see it again. And honestly, I don't know when we'll be able to go back there. But it was a really amazing experience, and you have all these stuff in boxes, and if you don't grab it then you're not going to see it again. So it's one of those things, just get it now. Hey, time travelers. So I'm here with Culture Club, and it's about 8:30. You can see the clock behind me. Oh, I look like a wreck. It's been quite a day. Like, shopping is something so hard, but I know that I had a lot of errands to do today. It was about an hour drive there and back, and it was a long day. I am so glad that you came with us on our adventures here today, and I hope that you subscribe and you check out my channel and that you follow me on other adventures. Thank you for watching. Let's go listen to some music. Bye.